Psychological Disorder in Breaking Bad by Alec Taylor and Jake Erout.
Walter White is the main character in the TV show Breaking Bad. In the show, Walter is diagnosed with stage 3 lung cancer and is given less than a year left to live. Due to this, he starts cooking meth in order to make enough money to provide for his family once he is gone. Walter has a wife and 2 kids and is a high school chemistry teacher. And the show takes place in a New Mexican suburbia, which is in Albuquerque, New Mexico, between 2008 and 2010. It is evident throughout the show that Walter White has narcissistic personality disorder, where he has impairment in 2 of the categories below. These categories being the first one, identity, which is the person having excessive reference for others and exaggerated self-appraisal. The second category is self-direction, where the person has goals based on the approval of others and personal standards either too high or low. Third category is empathy, where they have an impaired ability to recognize feelings of others and perceive them only to themselves. Finally, the fourth category is intimacy, where the person has superficial relationships and a predominance need in superficial gain. Out of these categories, Walter White has an impairment in identity and self-direction. Also, Walter has these 2 personality traits required to be diagnosed with the narcissistic personality disorder. Grandiosity, which is a feeling of entitlement, self-centeredness, belief that one is better than others, and also with condescension towards others. And then attention-seeking, which is attempts to attract to be the focus of attention of others, and also being admiration-seeking as well. And these are all based off DSM-5.
Diagnosis in a cultural context. The cultural context of Breaking Bad is New Mexican suburbia between the time 2008 and 2010. This cultural context heightens Walter's narcissism because many studies have shown that American culture instills narcissistic tendencies within its residents more than most countries because of the way they raise their children and the individualistic nature of the United States. And these studies can be found in the article referenced in the in-text citation. If Walter were to go to a therapist in this culture, he would likely be diagnosed correctly because of the emphasis the United States puts on mental health. However, it would be very unlikely that a narcissist like Walter White would ever go to seek out therapy. Narcissistic personality disorder would likely not be diagnosed in all cultures because many countries and cultures don't place as big as a emphasis on mental health as the United States does, and also in some countries narcissistic behaviors may be more acceptable within the culture, so a problem will never be identified in the first place. Some common stigmas of narcissism in American culture mainly include inflated self-importance and a lack of empathy. Now for some evidence as to why Walter White has narcissistic personality disorder, we'll be talking about 2 symptoms. Symptom 1 being his fantasies of success, which is related to self-direction and grandiose. So Walter White constantly has fantasies of success throughout the show. For example, towards the end of the show, Walt, after making his meth empire, he could have bought out for $5 million, which is far more than his initial goal of $737,000. However, he kept going because he wanted to make the biggest empire possible. This is related to self-direction, which means personal standards are either too high or too low. In Walt's case, his standards are way too high. He wants to achieve way more than would be safe for his family. And grandiose, a feeling of entitlement, self-centeredness, belief that one is better than others, relates to Walt very heavily. He believes he's smarter than everyone, better than everyone, so he does not want to stop while he's ahead. He wants to keep going.
The second symptom is a sense of self-importance, and this is related to identity and attention seeking. Throughout the show, Walter has an exaggerated self-appraisal, already assuming everyone knows who he is in the meth world. And especially by season 5, where he's meeting meth dealers, he states, "You all know exactly who I am," making it clear that he believes that everyone should know who he is, and even commanding them to say his name. This shows that he has a sense of the self-importance. He believes he is more important than others. And this exaggerated self-appraisal is greatly inflated. He's also attention seeking as well, as after all, he's freaking making sure they say his name. He's trying to be the focus of attention. The one system that's not really shown though is intimacy. Walter still cares for his family throughout the show, even though he has narcissistic personality disorder. After all, he originally joined the meth business in order to provide for his family after he died to cancer. After all, he planned to make $737,000 in order to make sure his family could go to college, etc. And it's this intimacy. He still had those relationships, and he still cared about his family.
The treatment plan we chose to help with Walter White's narcissistic personality disorder is a mentalization-based therapy, which includes a therapist and a patient who work with mentalization exercises to help the patient understand his and others' emotions. So this is appropriate for Walter White because this treatment plan helps the patient recognize multiple aspects of their and others' feelings which will help Walt gain some more empathy and understand how out of line he really is. Some ethical concerns of this treatment plan is that it may be very difficult on a therapist's part to empathize with Walt because of the crazy things he's doing, which can actually lead to even more distrust and hatred within Walter and potentially even make his condition worse. And some situational factors that can affect this kind of treatment is just that Walt's life is very hectic and he has a lot of things he cannot tell the therapist that can put them in danger. So it would be very difficult for Walt to actually get this kind of treatment. Broader perspectives. Walter White is overall a fairly accurate representation of a person with narcissistic personality disorder, although it may be slightly exaggerated. A lot of the actions Walter takes in the show are a lot worse than what the average person with narcissistic personality disorder would be doing. Thinking more broadly, the portrayal of disorders in film in general can reinforce and heighten stigmas negatively, as they often exaggerate what these people are really like, but at the same time they can also help raise awareness as to how hard these disorders can be on people.
Thank you so much for listening to our presentation, and here are the references we used in our presentation. Thank you.